and I want to welcome you to our annual, did y'all hear well? To our annual political forum hosted by Old Town Association here in Selma, Alabama. We're going to be listening to our candidates for the mayoral election this coming for today, and then next Thursday we're going to have our Ward 3 and City Council President people come and speak to us. We are going to have everyone come up. I've been given the number, and I'm going to give them 2 minutes to introduce themselves, and then we're going to have 5 minutes of pre-submitted questions. I want to thank everyone. We got great questions whenever we had the questions that submitted to us. Also, I want to thank Terminator, Exterminator, and Bobby Luker. He generously came out this afternoon and he sprayed for ants in the yard and for bugs and all kinds of stuff. So if you do find anything, we certainly try. So our first candidate is going to be Maya Jackson. Everyone drew numbers. And Maya, she's going to have 2 minutes to kind of introduce herself to you. And we're going to have 5 minutes of the questions that were submitted.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank Selma Old Town Association for hosting this forum. An educated voter. I feel like I'm screaming. Can you hear me now? Okay. Good afternoon. I would like to thank Selma Old Town Association for holding this candidate forum. An educated voter is an informed voter. I would like to introduce myself. I'm Maya Jackson. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm an executive director, I'm the councilwoman for Ward 3 currently. And I am a candidate for the next mayor of Selma, Alabama. As I said in the city council, I became frustrated by the continued inability, to get the mayor to sign contracts or even to get the basics done in Ward 3. In our city as a whole. It became crystal clear to me at that time that we needed a new leader, a leader with a vision, a leader that included transparency, financial accountability, individual responsibility, community, and service. We need a leader that understands the needs to prioritize and that is willing to build a strong team and to work hard and make the difficult yet necessary decisions to secure Selma's future. With your help, as your next mayor, I will strive to do all those things and be all those things to everyone. It is my desire to be your next mayor. And as your next mayor, I will work for all the people. Thank you. I'm Maya Jackson.
Thank you, Maya. And I'm going to just stand here and ask the questions. I'm going to try to speak as loudly as I can. If you cannot hear, just let me know. But one of the questions, the first question that was submitted is, what is your plan to deal with the shortage in Selma's police force and the low morale that we've had in the police force here in Selma?
That's an awesome question. I think we need to incentivize our officers. I think their pay is not adequate for the services they provide in this small city. They can go to our county, they can go to Prattville, and they can find better wages and lower costs. And so that's what they're opting to do. So we're going to have to incentivize them. We're going to have to give them the training that's necessary to ensure that every call that they're going to, that they're not addressing mental health issues, they're not addressing homelessness, they're not addressing substance abuse. There are programs that are out there to assist our officers. There's the Pure Violence program that will allow funding to come in to alleviate their need to respond to these type of calls. Those are for social workers. They're not for police officers, and they often end up making matters worse.
All right. The second question is, we all know the problems with garbage in our city. What is your plan to revive the public works and cemetery departments and code enforcement?
Okay, that's exactly right. As it's been stated on several occasions that we didn't have to lay off individuals. There could have been other mechanisms that were put in place. We do need to reorganize. There are things that we're going to have to do absolutely in our community, in our city to reorganize and put the funding where it needs to be, but it shouldn't have never been taken from Public Works. So the first thing that I want to do when I get become mayor is to ensure that the finances are available to ensure that our essential workers are in place. Essential workers include our police officers, our public works, and definitely our cemetery, because those are our grounds. When individuals come into our city, those are the things that they see. They see if we have violence, and they see if we're clean. And what they see currently is trash, garbage, and overgrown cemeteries.
The next question is, how will you choose department heads to make sure that we get the most qualified people in our department heads?
That is so well. Such a much needed question. What I found during this election is that we have individuals that will make promises. I haven't made any promises. What I will say is that I want to find the most qualified individuals. There's a list, there are individuals that are placed on the state list that has done this type of work before. They're either retired. So I want to look to experts in those areas. I want to contact other cities, see if they have individuals that may be an assistant director, see if they're willing to come to Selma. I want to find the best people throughout our state to come and improve our city, and to ensure that our department heads are paid the best wages and that we have the most qualified individuals in those spots.
Thank you. The next question is, with the complexity and urgency confronting Selma, are you willing to give up your current employment or business so that you can devote your entire focus to solving these problems?
Absolutely. It's going to take a full-time person, a full-time position. And when I decided to run for mayor, I knew that I would have to give up my passion for service in the judicial field. I'm going to continue to assist those that are in substance abuse, and just in another arena, in another way, ensure that we have a mechanism in place that they're not arrested by our officers, that they have social workers that come available. But it is time that I move, and because my city needs me, and I'm ready.
The next question is, how will you address and what plan of action would you propose in regards to the state examiner's audit, which found deficiencies in both the finance department as well as misuse and misappropriation of funds by the city council? Okay.
Another great question. Many of you may not know, but most of the sightings in our current audit report from the public examiner's office is from research that I did. It was from the 3,000 documents that the mayor sent to us, hoping that we would not read them. I took countless hours over several months. I went through them. I provided a spreadsheet, and I sent those to the public examiner's office. So I think I found 2 things that I did not report in the examiner's office, but if you take a look at the past council meetings, you'll see very similar things that I addressed, and I sent them all my reports. I didn't only send them to the examiner's office, I sent them to the state office, and I'm going to address those things by following their recommendations. We've had several audits before. The last in our municipal court in 2010, there was nothing ever done. We have to follow the recommendations, and the first thing that the council did was follow my recommendation to have financial monitoring. That was something that should have always been in place. That's something that we voted on prior to the examiner's office that failed. That was my item that I led, and we have it in place now. Not just because the examiner said it, but because I fought and championed for it.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Are there any other candidates here? If you are, please come forward. Okay.
Are you ready now?
Yes, sir. I'm going to give you your number.
Oh, okay. So you're going to call the number when
Yes,
you're ready
sir.
for it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, our number 2, our second candidate is going to be Yusuf Salaam. So Yusuf is going to give a 2-minute introduction of himself, and then we will go with our questions. So Yusuf. And with the mic, if you'll hold it close to your mouth, it just helps.
Good evening. And I certainly would like to commend this association. I certainly would like to commend this association for giving us an opportunity to share with you the vision we have. We are elected to be the next chief executive of this city, a city that's in a very critical stage of its existence, a city that's facing difficult and dire circumstances. We don't have but 2 minutes, so we have to zero in. Let me introduce myself as the only person on this platform that served in municipal government when all the trash was being picked up. When the city of Selma could bury the loved ones of its citizens. When we had ample law enforcement patrolling our streets. When we turn in a budget every year in the black. When we had adequate fire protection as opposed to a situation now where the whole department is subject to a possible decertification because of excessive closing of fire stations. When the city council for a 6-year period voted 90% of the time in a unanimous manner, not bickering, coming together, debating, and resolving issues together. Don't tell me
Right, Judge.
that the mayor and the council, that's 2 minutes?
Yeah, that's your 2 minutes is up.
Oh, this speedy gun
It
done
goes.
tonight, isn't it? Well,
So
let's
we're gonna-
deal with it through questions.
We're going to start with the questions. And the first one is, with the problems of garbage in our city, what are your plans to revitalize the public works, cemetery departments, and code enforcement?
Let me just say, we have to face the facts. These vital services have been gutted. The bottom line is that in order to deliver services, you have to have a sufficient personnel level. I went out to the cemetery one day, the supervisor and a worker. How in the world can we expect to deliver that service? 2 weeks ago, 3 law enforcement officers, the police chief, who should have been back in his office administering, and his assistant and 1 regular officer patrolling this town. The bottom line is this: it's going to take a while to resuscitate every vital department in this city. But we cannot wait to clean up, to provide basic trash services. So to be honest with you, we're going to have to do what myself and others are doing right now, forming a volunteer group of citizens to organize in a big way, come together and work on this until the citizens have enough confidence in the governing officials that they're willing to consider some kind of way to bring in additional revenue. Until our citizens become believers in our government again, they're not going to trust us as stewards with resources. We have to face that. So consequently, we're going to have to make do with a massive civilian corps until the government, after 6 months, after a year, prove that we are indeed responsible in managing our fiscal resources, thereby requesting through town hall meetings that we consider as a city ways to bring in resources to revitalize all of our departments. It's not going to happen any other way.
Thank you. And the second question, how will you choose department heads to make sure that we get the most qualified people in those positions?
I will choose them deliberately, understanding that government has been ineffective for now 20 years. Again, the last time that we had functional government in Selma was between 1992 and 2000. Now, what does that mean? People are reading about these problems year in and year out. I ask the question, how many qualified people are going to, we can have a search all over the nation, but how many qualified people are going to leave a job that's stable, that's paying well, to come to Selma and try to deal with our problems? You don't have to be a rocket scientist to answer that question. So the next chief executive must be very deliberate in trying to find qualified departments here. But let me let you in on a secret. That's going to be very difficult. So consequently, what must we do? We must again turn to the best minds in Selma, in finances, in education, in public sector, private sector, faith-based community. Bring them together, let them advise and work with the chief executive until we can finally bring our city official staff up to par. Salaam and no other chief executive is going to come in with a magic wand. I will not challenge your intelligence with such a position. Going to come in, wave a wand, and automatically have good department heads. It took 20 years for us to get in this dismal state. Wonderful public officials, years of experience, arbitrarily run away. And we haven't garnered the knowledge on a department head basis since. Everybody now is a rookie in the dark, making mistakes. We look up now, after all that years of disinformation, misinformation, all those years, with a city that's in chaos. That next chief executive better know what to look for in a department head. That next chief executive must not be one who sat around and saw good department heads run away. That next chief executive must not be one who had a great staff, but because of stubbornness and obstinacy and big-headedness, ran a lot of good people away. We don't want to hear this, but these are the essential factors of government on the ground.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Alrighty, number 3. And do we have any other candidates that have come in since we started? If you do, please come up. Please come up front. Hey, Renata, you're number 3, or you not?
I'm number 4.
Number 4. Who's number 3? Cleopas. Okay. So number 3 can come right on up. Thank you.
I will give it to you.
That was your 5 minutes.
Oh,
It's by time.
it's not about number.
It's not by number, no, sir. It's by
Okay.
time. And you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself, and then 5 minutes to questions.
Thank you.
So you're welcome.
I would like to say good evening,
Good evening.
and I hope you're happy, because I am. Happiness starts inside. I'm from Selma. This is my home. I was raised here. A matter of fact, I served on the city council from 1984 to 1988. And I ran for mayor in 1988 and 1992. So much for that. I'm home. I've been gone for a while. And I came back because I know I can help. I don't have to be in a high position to help, but I think in order to be in a higher position, you have a better chance to help. Case in point, when I was on the council from 84 to 88, there were numerous things that could have been done, that should have been done, were not done. And I couldn't do anything about it because I didn't have any authority to do anything. And that's why I came back home. I've been intending to come back home ever since I left to be mayor of Selma. And I'm going to tell you this, and you don't have to believe me, but if you elect me to be the mayor of Selma, I promise you, I'll change it. I'm tough enough. I'm tough enough to change it. And you know something? I'm mean enough. Let me say this, and I don't mean to fight. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about tough enough to hang in there until it changes. You see, we're in a fight here. You think it's just a fight among the people on the council, but it's a government on the north side of this city, you know what I'm talking about, it's pushing you.
Thank you, Mr. Cliff. So we're going to start our questions.
Yes, sir.
That's our 2 minutes.
That's good, that's good.
Okay, I'll ask you some of the same questions that we had before. You know, how do you plan to revitalize the public works, cemetery departments, and code enforcement in our city?
Well, the first thing I would do, I wouldn't go looking for a great supervisor, a great department head. You see, the supervisor is the key. The supervisor makes the department head. If you got a department head can be tough, if you would allow me to use that expression, and you got a supervisor that doesn't know what he's doing and does not know how to supervise people, you still don't have anything. What I would do, I would find one person within the garbage department, for an example, a young man, and I would start training him right there. And in about 3 or 4 years, you would have good department heads all over the city. And the reason I'll start with the young ones, because they want it. They want to prove themselves. And when they come in and prove themselves by bringing the department up and cleaning the city and so forth, then the city will change. You can't bring people to Selma and expect them to do anything. They don't want to come. You got to start with the people who are here, and you got to train them, and you got to tell them in no uncertain terms that this is it. If you decide that you don't want to do it, if you decide that you want to get lazy on the job, we're going to let you go. But we're going to bring you in this office or in this room at least once a month, and we're going to take you through some training. We're going to teach you how to talk to people, how to deal with people, and how to insist that people work. And I know how to do that.
And Mr. Cliffus, how will you address and what plan of action would you propose in regards to the state examiner's audit, which found deficiencies in both the financial department as well as misuse and misappropriation of funds by the council?
Check, check, check. Very simple. Check, check, check. You know what? Most people steal. Did you know that? Rich people steal. So if a rich man steal, a poor man will steal also. And a man that's not poor steal. So what you do is you set up a system where you check, check, check. Sir, that's enough.
Right.
All right.
All right. With the complexity and urgency confronting Selma, are you willing to give up your current employment or business so that you can devote your entire focus to solving the problems?
That's what I came for. That's why I'm here. To devote everything I got. And you know what I always feel? When I devote everything I got, it's enough. And not only for me, but for you too. If you give anything in your life, all that you've got, it's enough. And I will dedicate my all to move Selma. It can be moved, and I understand how to move it. You move it with people that are already here. You don't go reaching out for people that looking for absorbent salaries because you don't have it. So you got to start from the bottom, and you got to train people, and you got to nurse this city until it grows to where you want it to be. And it won't take long if you do it that way.
All right, thank you. The next question is, how would you deal with conflict resolution within the city government as like the council and the mayor and department heads? When there's conflict, how would you deal with that?
You know what I do? I bring them all in my office and shut the door. And I won't have no stick in there either. You see, when you deal with people and you're dealing with them and everybody else is around, they tend to show out. They tend to, when the council is in progress, sometimes people show out because they want their friends to say, oh, you know he did this and he did that. I don't show out. I get a man in the office and he gets me and I look him in the eyes. When I say look him in the eye, I don't take my eyes off. And I ask him simple questions. I said, look, do you this or would you that or would you that? And I keep my eyes on him. And when he get through it, I said, remember what you said now. Remember what you said. Because when people get in groups, a lot of times, like the city council, sometimes they make deals among themselves. And they're not really, could not really be in the best interest of the city. So what you have to do, you have to bring them in there and look them in the eyes and break it. And men can be broken when they're wrong if you're strong enough to challenge them. Really, they can. You can look a man in the eye and put it on him and not cursing him and fussing at him, but you can put it on him and he'll come to you when he knows that you're serious about what you're doing and you're strong enough to push him. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Cliff.
That's all?
Yes, sir.
I want some more.
Thank you.
All right.
And are these your glasses, Mr. Cliffus? Or are these your glasses?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And there again, if there are any new candidates that have come up, please come forward and get your number. And we're next going to be hearing from Miss Renata White. And you need your 2 minutes of introduction and 5 minutes of questions.
Understood. I want all my questions.
Okay.
Good evening, Selma. I am Renata White, and I will be the next mayor of Selma. It is time out for the same old politics as usual. The city is suffering while failed leadership thought it was okay to allow the city to suffer. The budget should never ever be an issue in a historic city like Selma, Alabama. Selma has so much to offer to the entire world. You travel near, you travel far. When you say the name Selma, everyone recognizes Selma. We have to tap into the history. We have to showcase our history. We have to bring in new revenue streams for tourism. We have to be a city that also open their arms to small businesses. We have to foster our small businesses in our community. Industries alone cannot do what we need to do for our city. Crime, public safety, we must deal with it. A safe city is a safe city is a wonderful city. An unsafe city is no city. How do you bring industry in? How do you attract newcomers to come into your city? You have to fix the city and people will come in.
Thank you, Renata. The first question, Renata, is kind of going off the safety thing that you mentioned.
Okay.
Last spring, the Attorney General came with his team of prosecutors, investigators, and personnel to implement the Weed and Seed program. He made it clear that it was not a permanent program, and when they weeded out the violent offenders through the federal law enforcement and prison system, it was up to Selma to make sure that the seeds did not sprout again. What would you do to make sure that we don't have a new crop of violent criminals that are going to terrorize the city of Selma again?
Okay, so that is a task for public safety. That starts with the chief and it trickles down throughout the entire department. We also, as a community, must step in. We have to get to the point that people feel like it's safe to report crimes to the police department, and we don't hear of instances where people's homes have been shot up after they have reported those incidents. We must evaluate where the high crime areas are in the city. We start there. We tackle the city one neighborhood at a time. We man the police department and we get the guys that we need to cover this city and to keep this city safe. We tackle it one neighborhood at a time, and we evaluate it under the leadership of the chief and the men we already have serving.
How will you address and what plan of action would you propose in regards to the state examiner's audit, which found deficiencies in both the finance department as well as misuse and misappropriation of funds by the council?
Currently, I am still looking through those documents and evaluating them. But if there are already recommendations in place, I will also look at those recommendations and proceed accordingly. We also have the Ethics Commission at the state of Alabama that deals with those issues as well. So I will consult with the Ethics Commission, and whatever the recommendations are, I will abide.
Now, how would you choose department heads to make sure that you have the most qualified people?
You're only as strong as your team. I'm not running for the mayor of the city of Selma alone. I have a team behind me. I have citizens supporting me from every walk of life in the city of Selma. There are bright and brilliant scholars right here in our city. But the first thing when I get in, you must do an evaluation. You must see what is broken. If it is not broken, don't fix it. If it is broken, fix it. But human resources plays a vital role in that. You have to restructure the human resource department if it is not up to par to hire and acquire the best workers that we need in the city. I have been doing my research as I go around the city. The Auburn Center for Governmental Studies, they have done a complete study. Our current mayor refused to release the study. The answers are already there. There have been intensive study that wants us to restructure our human resource department. They are willing to come in and aid with technical assistance. We must have the right HR department in place, and we need the best and the brightest, and it's not a hard task.
The next question is, how would you deal with conflict resolution between the mayor, the city council, and department heads?
First of all, I don't operate in conflict. I don't understand why adults feel the need to argue and fight. I don't understand why it is so hard to simply communicate. We truly can work together. We truly can get along. I'm gonna say this, and when I say this, I mean this. I cannot understand for the life of me how the past leadership fought for 4 years and no one stepped up and said, you know what? Today, we're gonna come together. We're gonna unite as a body. We represent the citizens, the good, hard-working people of Selma, and we're gonna do what's right for our city, whether we like each other or not. I will work hard to make sure that the city is on a unified front, because there is one goal, and it's one Selma for all the people. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Alrighty, our next is going to be James Perkins. And if anyone is a candidate has come, please come forward.
Okay. I'm going to use my preacher voice, if that's all right. And I have a reason for that. I have a 92-year-old father, an 88-year-old mother, and I'm the one the sibling that's going in and out of the house, and I am COVID sensitive to ensure that they are safe. And so I choose not to use the microphone for that purpose. And I trust and I hope that you can hear me, and if not, I'll step out even further to assist you with hearing me. My name is James Perkins. I'm a candidate for mayor of the city of Selma. I've served as mayor for 8 years. I live at 1145 First Avenue in Selma, Alabama. 1145 First Avenue in Selma, Alabama. I do not own a house anywhere else. I have been here for the past 30 years. Prior to that, I lived here for 20 years. So 50 years of my life, I've been a resident of Selma. I want to acknowledge my wife who's here. Bless her heart. She keeps putting up with me. And I want to thank you for inviting me to be here. I have a passion for the community. My reason for running, not just this time, but the time before, and the time before, and the time before, is because I believe and I know that God has given me a gift. I genuinely see and understand our problems, and I see and I understand the solutions that are needed to solve our problems. All that I have been doing is offering the community the gift that I have been given to give to you. So I'm running to offer you the gift of solving our problems. I want to stop now and ask, if I stop now, my 2 minutes up?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because I was going to use that extra minute to get 6 minutes out of the questions.
Okay. What is your plan to revive the public works, cemetery departments, and code enforcement?
We are under a contract. We cannot ignore the fact that we have a contract in place. That contract has to be renegotiated. That contract is the reason we are in the situation that we are in. When people don't pay the contractor picks up the garbage can. When the garbage can is picked up, the trash goes on the ground. We must renegotiate the contract to ensure that all citizens first have a garbage can. That has to be done. I've already spoken with our garbage collectors. They are willing to renegotiate the contract for that specific purpose. Why? Because they are hurting just as much as we are. Only about 50% of the people who are residents are paying their garbage fee. That's horrible. We need to fix the contract and then move from there to deal with the remainder of the issues of the violations of the health department and dealing with this, and the violations of the Alabama Department of Environmental Management and the dumping sites that we have throughout our community.
And how will you choose department heads to make sure you get the most qualified people?
When I served as mayor before, my first 4 years, all of the department heads were chosen by Mayor Smitherman. I don't think it's wise to go in and start firing people. There's a wealth of knowledge in City Hall. They worked before this current administration, and they were fairly efficient, many of them. So we don't need to go out and just wholesale fire people. We also need the wealth of knowledge to better understand where we are right now. And so I am willing to give the people who are there a chance to demonstrate their capacity to do the job under good leadership. If they show that capacity to do that, they have no problem with James Perkins. But if they do not, then I have no problem with releasing them and finding other resources to do the work.
All righty. The next question is, how will you address and what plan of action will you propose in regards to the state examiner's audit, which found deficiencies in both the finance department as well as misuse and misappropriation of the funds of the council?
I would go to them and ask them, why haven't they moved already? If they got findings and they are legitimate, Why are they waiting? I would ask them to expedite their process so that we can get our community from under that cloud, and then move forward with an extensive effort to deal with the budgeting process that we have. I'm convinced that we can pass a budget, that the mayor can put together a budget that is realistic based on prior year revenue, and that the council will approve. I'm convinced of that. I think all we have to do is work together to achieve that.
With the complexities and urgency confronting Selma, are you willing to give up your current employment or business so that you can devote your entire focus to solving these problems?
It is unrealistic and unfair for me to stand here and say I'm going to retire or resign as pastor of Ebenezer if I'm elected. If I'm going to do that, I need to say the church that, and not this delegation. And so I will not do that to the church. But what I will say is this: when Ebenezer called me to pastor, I was a candidate for mayor. Ebenezer has met with their pastor. Ebenezer has a clear understanding of the requirements of the position. Ebenezer is a well-structured, well-managed, well-pastored church. And as Dr. Reese would also always say, if you think the church can't get along without you, haul off and die. Amen. And the church will move on.
In the weed and seed question, what would you do to make sure that we don't have a new crop of violent criminals coming up in Selma to terrorize the city?
There are many things that we need to do, but we need to make sure that our law enforcement personnel feel that they are fairly treated. I looked at the salary positions right now, and the minimum is $34,000. That's not bad considering where we are financially in our community. In addition to that, I will also institute specific incentives. People talk about incentives, but I will institute a $5,000 down payment assistance strategy to help recruit officers into our community. What will that do? That means that $5,000 will be a part of their hiring package. $1,000 forgiven every year, as long as they buy a house in our community and live in our neighborhood. Every year that they live in the community, $1,000 is forgiven on that. Those are the kinds of incentives that we need to add to our existing package to increase morale and to draw qualified officers into our community. In addition to that, the community policing piece is critical. We got to put police officers back in our community. We have to deal with this community policing piece. That's what this is all about. The other thing is training. We have to increase training. Why? Because statistics have shown that the more educated the officer is, the less chance that officer will write a bad report, the less chance that officer will end up in a conflict with a citizen on the street. And so I am proposing that we institute a 2-year junior college degree requirement for officers that we hire in the future, and provide a tuition incentive for our existing officers to take advantage of that same opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is James Perkins, candidate for mayor. I ask for your vote.
Alrighty, the next is Spencer. Are you next? Okay. And if someone does not feel comfortable holding the mic, you can always just adjust this, or I'll adjust it for you. But the main thing is to make sure that you're close to it.
I'm a little short, so I'm going to put this down a little bit. Good evening. How are you doing? I appreciate everybody showing up. We're getting trickling in here, and I'm Hafford Fairbear Spencer, running for mayor. And I'd like to introduce myself as the newbie, and I hit the ground running. You know, I'm so excited about Selma and having 12 candidates. 12 candidates. That's nice. That's a big number. I hated to be the last one almost, but I'm here. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a hospital administrator, I'm a nursing home administrator. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a politician, I'm a businessman. And when I got here, I came in and I saw this historical town, and I wanted to be part of it. My wife said, why are you going to be a part of it so fast in politics? Just give it a little wait. Well, if you see how the politics are happening right now with the city council and the mayor not working together, I figured I'll throw my hat in and try to work on these things. And in fact, You know what? I won't even take a salary for the first year. That's to show you I don't want the job. It pays too much anyway. But I'll take what I can to give you some service. The second thing I'd like to say is, since I come from the business industry, I just wanted to tell you that a lot of things that have been happening that I've gone to the city council meetings, and I feel like there's a lot of deficiencies that need to be worked on, and your state audit examiners have shown that through their thing. So I brought my wife here. She's an Auburn graduate, and she loves Alabama, and she's got one foot in Atlanta, and we're retiring here. I brought my mom here recently. She has a little bit of dementia, so I've been ongoing that for a little bit, but she's going to have a caretaker, and she loves this place. Any other questions?
Well, the first one, Spencer, is going to be, like you mentioned about the state examiner's audit. What would you do to address the deficiencies and to take care of what was addressed in that?
I love that question because I have been proactive in that. I've been looking into this. I see the deficiencies. This is not the first time you have the deficiencies. I know what people say, accountability, transparency, but I tell you what, I've already acted, and I've already called AG, and they can't get down here with this COVID-19, and I told them, if you could at least use the evidence for the people that have done these certain ethical or criminal or civil crimes, let's hold them accountable, because quite honestly, this is not the first audit that started like this. And I think with the plan of action, nobody has done a plan of action, and I'm not going to let this be swept under the carpet. Even if I'm not your mayor, I'm going to be there as a citizen, and I'm going to make sure these deficiencies are accountable and held accountable for the people that made the deficiencies.
Alrighty. How would you deal with the shortage of the police force and restoring that to our city?
Pass. No, just joking. Okay, what I would do is basically, as a mayor, I kind of want to work with the new chief and help them with the continued education that they might need, because when I moved here, I have not really seen much traffic stops. I have seen so many cars parked one way, and I hope that we go to Montgomery and park the right way. But I want to tell you that small towns give out tickets that give them income to run their police stations. And I think people here have had a lackadaisical kind of way of enforcing it, and I think the police have too. And since we have a new chief, I would like to work with him on enforcing these. Now, that's my opinion, and that's the way I'm going to start it, but I'd like to be proactive with the chief and see if we can get this started and what the chief and the continued educations that everybody needs in that department.
Thank you. And how would you choose department heads to make sure that you get the most qualified people?
I love that question. Being a hospital administrator, having to sit down on Mondays, having all these departments from human resources, director of nursing, engineering, 6 different department heads, $15 million I had to operate. I had to show accountability for each one of the departments, and I made sure that if they didn't have the tools to work with, we would try to give them the tools, but if they couldn't work with it, then they're out of there. Human resources would come in and make sure legally that I did not get sued for a lawsuit for releasing people. But I see that deficiencies from the state audit shows that some of the department heads are not doing their job. And get them out, outsource it for a while to another company until you can find the right person. And I'm very experienced in dealing with department heads in all these 30 years of nursing home and hospital administration.
And Spencer, how would you revive the public works, cemetery department, and code enforcement and make it start working again?
I wouldn't cut their budget. These are the things that the people see most of all. When you have budgets and you put things in cemeteries, we don't have perpetual care like most people do, and they're all taking in account that even though our parents are passed on and everything, when people come in this town, this cemetery has a lot of history. And when I came in, I was just flabbergasted at how the weeds and how everything was just not taken care of. I would make sure that that budget for the cemetery, my knees are giving out, I hope I don't pass out. The cemetery and all the different public works get their money, because quite honestly, when you sit in the city in air condition and you're a secretary and you get paid $50,000, and you're human resource director, and you get paid $60,000, why do you need a full-time human resource? You don't have that turnover. Move those monies into the appropriate places. Move those monies into the public works, the cemetery. You have 19,000 people. Let's say 5,000 of those people are under 18. You have the budget, you have the money. You misappropriate the funds and it shows up in the public.
And how would you deal with conflict within the mayor, council, and department head situation?
How would I deal with the conflict?
If you were mayor.
If I was mayor. If I was mayor, the conflict hopefully would be a lot of new city council members are coming on, so we got a fresh start, and a new mayor's coming on, so we have another fresh start. And quite honestly, all the cities that I've lived in, the mayor and the city council work together, and that way the people are not lost in the cold. So basically, I would basically try to work and be open-minded and not close doors and not put cameras everywhere. I would try to make sure I attended all the functions of the city council. I'd make sure the historical bridge crossings and all the other things were done with the city council and the mayor. I wouldn't fight amongst themselves because we're a little older to do that. You know, that's different if we were in high school. But I would be a mayor that would be outgoing and willing to work with the city council because I'm part of this town too. My monies are here, my family's here. I want to work together. Thank you and have a good evening.
Already, and what I've been saying, if perchance there is any candidate that has come up that I have not seen that is out there, please make yourself known so we won't skip you. Alrighty, we're going to hear from our last candidate now.
Excuse me. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Randy Williams. I've been active in the city of Selma since I was 14 years old when I was at Selma High School winning awards in drama on the state level and southeastern region. I also started in radio at the same time at WTQX. Since that time, I've been to 20 radio stations in 7 different states. I've been general manager for 2 nonprofit organizations, one in Philadelphia, one here in Selma. I've published and been general manager for 2 newspapers. I'm currently publishing Selma Post-Herald and SelmaPostHerald.net. I'm a webmaster, and I still work with a number of nonprofit organizations. I'm also a member of Brown Chapel AME Church. I'm the media person for social media and audio and video, and have had the opportunity to meet a lot of great people the last couple of years, including we just did the ceremony to honor the late Congressman John Lewis. My platform is simple: PPP, public works, public safety, public accountability, and transparency. Public works, the streets we know are horrible. We need to find a way to fix these potholes. We need to clean up. We need to make the city cleaner. We need to find a way to solve the garbage and trash problem. Public safety, we know we're moving in the right direction, but at the bottom line is that we want to have less crime in the city of Selma. Also, when it comes to public accountability and transparency, we need to enforce the rules that we already have that are in place. We need to find a way to make sure that the people of Selma know what's being done with your money and how it's being spent and where we are at any given time. And I'll be accessible. You know, one of the first things I want to do is restore the city council meetings being broadcast on the cable stations, which is already paid for.
Well, you have heard most of the questions, Randy, but I will start with this first one about the state examiner's audit. How would you address that, and what would you plan to take care of what was found there?
Well, you know, it goes to, again, accountability and transparency. Nobody knows, you know, where the money is and who's supposed to be collecting it. I think the best way for me to answer that question is I was just in Prattville this week, and I was so impressed with their level of customer service, how friendly. Everywhere I went, even the McDonald's, people were friendly. And what that suggested was that at the top, the point of what I take from that is at the very top. We need to be customer friendly. And I from afar have seen the way things have been operated in the police department and in the magistrate's office. No receipts, nobody knows who owes money, no accounting is being done there's acceptable accounting principles that are not being adhered to. At the end of the day, I would insist that we just take care of business. That's all. It's simple as that. It's not rocket science. I don't have to be a rocket scientist to say handle your business, do your job. If you do your job, everything else will fall in place.
And Randy, how would you choose your department heads, making sure you got the most qualified people?
Well, the first thing I would do is make sure that I'm on good legal footing, and make sure that I've got a good human resource director that would help me through that process. Another philosophy that I operate on is it comes out of the Bible. In the multitude of counselors, there is safety. And I would seek out people in this community who I know, who know this community maybe even better than I do, that can help me through the process of making sure that we get the right people. I would do an assessment of the departments to make sure that I don't just fire somebody that's doing a good job. But obviously, we have a problem in Selma that needs to be fixed.
All right. And kind of piggybacking on that question, what would you plan to do to help revive our public works, cemetery, and code enforcement?
Well, again, now we know that government does not exist to make a profit. But it doesn't exist to be in the red either. We need to be able to have a balanced budget. As we hire new people, we know how important public works is. We need to pay them a livable wage. But we may just have to not hire as many people, and we may have to learn how to do more with less. And that would be the motto. We're here to work. And so we need to make sure we get qualified people that have a skill set that can help us clean the town up and maintain it and make it look like something. But we got to get people that have the skill set and the willingness and the same passion that I have for the city. They're going to have the same passion as well.
Right. And the question about the weed and seed program, what you as mayor could do to make sure that we do not get a new crop of violent criminals that terrorize Selma?
The first thing I would do is find a way to create more opportunities for young people, for young men who are felons, and to stop them before they become felons. The seeding process. They need to be trained so that they don't have an excuse to commit robberies or to commit crime. I want to head them off before they get to the age of where they're felons. And if that means we have to put together a group of people around the table from social services, from mental health, from criminal justice, from law enforcement, I want to do what we have to do. But we need to save these young people before they're lost. We got to start early.
All right, thank you. As far as the mayor and the city of Selma, what could you do to help improve the education of our community?
Well, the job of the educational system really belongs to the school board. So, my role as mayor is to be supportive of what they do. One thing I would love to do, but we can't afford it right now, is we have a number of abandoned buildings and a number of abandoned schools in each of these wards that can be turned into safe places for young people to have a place to be tutored, where they can do their homework and get these skill sets that we're talking about. It would have to be manned by volunteers, but then you still have a maintenance cost. So all of that would be dependent upon how much money the city is generating in relationship to our budget.
All righty. And as mayor, how would you deal with conflict among the council, your position, and the department heads?
First, I pray. And the second thing I do is I take everybody to Prattville. We're going to take them on a retreat to Prattville. We're going to go and eat and see how they do business in Prattville so that they can understand how important it is to be friendly and customer friendly. But my personality is a little different. As you know, for those of you who know, I've been doing Viewpoint for the last 12 years. I've got pretty thick skin, and I've learned how to facilitate I've learned how to bring people together. So I don't see that being a problem. You know, I think that we just need to build a team and have the kind of attitude and the focus that says that we're all on the same team. We're all in this together. And that would be the approach that I would use. Yeah, and not confrontational.
Well, thank you, Randy.
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I appreciate everyone coming out tonight and hearing from our 8 candidates that were present. Next Thursday, we're going to be here at the same place. I see you. That's right. Terkeisha did let me know today that she was home ill, and Terkeisha Sullivan. But next Thursday, we're going to be here at the same place, and we're going to be hearing from our city council president candidates and also from Ward 3. So if you get a chance, the citizens, they can. What you need to do is you need to email, and if you can email me, and if you have something to write down on, I'll give you my email address. See, everyone emailed questions to me before. So, is everybody ready? That email address is G as in Gerald, A as in Anderson, D as in David, M as in Mary, D as in David, the number 2 at charter.net. If you didn't get that, come up and see me before you leave tonight, and I will give you that, because what we did is, when we have done this before, we found out that it's better to get those questions ahead of time, because if you open up the floor, it really makes it go a lot longer, and that's why we try to get the questions ahead of time. But anyone can send in a question, so please let me know those questions for next week. But thank y'all all for coming, and have a blessed night, and we're just going to keep doing all we can to make Selma a better place.